Live from Gotham City, it's the BatPodcast. I'm Pat the Batman fan. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the show. Hopefully all you fans of the 1966 Batman TV series have been enjoying your new DVDs and Blu-rays of the show. A few months ago, I came across an article on Wired.com about some of the backstory of the release, and our BatPodcast buddy Wally Wingert was mentioned, along with a gentleman named John Stacks. It was really fascinating reading, and I got the sense that there was even more to it. So I reached out to John and asked him if he would speak a little more about his inadvertent role in the eventual release of the DVDs. So John generously took the time to speak with me by phone from his home in Florida, and he told me all about it. And now he's going to tell you all about it as well. So get ready. It's one of the most fascinating behind-the-scenes Batman tales you'll ever hear. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Stacks.
Release the bats.
So let's start with the obvious. How did you get into Batman?
Well, childhood. I'm 54 years old, and I remember as a kid how I would sit there and just scared to death about Batman and Robin, and my mom and dad sat next to me, and they laughed like it was a comedy. I never, ever understood that until I became an adult. And then I saw that, it was meant to be for both. I would think, oh, my God, how can they be laughing? I mean, Robin and Batman are going to die. We won't know until tomorrow. But they could be dead by tomorrow or next week, depending on what day it was. That's how it started with my Batman. And in 2009, I was working with a friend of mine from Jersey, John Patterson, who was a sculptor and had did a lot of kits and stuff. And so we started a company, Johnny's Resin, and we were making sculpts, mostly of the 60s Batman stuff and others. There's some other things there, too. And it was Frank Gorson's first manager, who wasn't with him toward the end, but in the beginning was with him. I forgot his name. But he said, if you did the figures, I met him out in Texas. I went to a show out in Texas. Frank was there. Adam was there. Yvonne was there. And Julie Newmar. Julie Newmar was there. And so met him out there, and I got to talking to, as I said, Frank Gorson's manager at the time, and he says, well, you could do this, but I think what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to, market those as the names, Frank Gorson, Adam West, Burt Ward, Yvonne Craig, Julie Newmar, and then we'd get by with it. And so that's what we decided we'd do. So I contacted each individual actor. The first one to sign on was Yvonne Craig, and she signed on for a year. After that was Burt. Adam never actually signed on. However, his son signed an agreement with me. We did make some Adam West kits. Frank Gorson, of course, did, and I worked with Frank Gorson at the end, helping him with shows and things. But I got to get close to Frank. Frank was the rough one. You didn't mess with Frank, and you definitely never, ever tried to take his cigarettes. Never. I mean, he did a show. He did a Broadway show before he died. He completed it, too. He did before he went into the hospital, before he passed, he finished the last show the day before. The day before he went into the hospital and passed away.
Wow.
But, they had to edit the show. They had to put out warnings. I know, because when he played here in Florida, of course, we were invited, and I went out to see it. And they had warnings for the studio audience that they would be smoking. He had to smoke while he did that show.
Wow.
The poor guy. I mean, and as far as the talent, he was just covered in it. The guy was one of the most talented men I've ever met. I mean, with his not just his acting, but his voice, and he was amazing. Amazing guy. But that's how it started, and we were doing the kits and selling quite a few. Now, during this time, too, I received, I think I got it here listed as, we got 5 cease and desist from DC Comics. However, I felt confident that, that we were in the right, so I did nothing but just continued to sell the kits. Well, DC Comics filed a lawsuit against me for, I think it was $8.5 million.
Jeez.
And so, it was, especially for my wife, she really freaked out. She could see the house and everything being taken away, all over Batman Kids. She told me all along, stop the Batman stuff and get serious. And now here, I'm getting sued. But as I said, I was doing more research, and that was the time I called Deborah Dozier. Actually, I called her stepmom, an actress. I wish I could remember her name. She was married to William Dozier when he died, and she gave me the contact number for Deborah Dozier, Potter. Last name was Potter. Got in touch with her. Then we did some research. I did all the research. Sent out to University of Wyoming. That's where he left all of his files. William Dozier left all of his files with the university. And so I contacted them, and I think there was 780 pages that pertained to Batman. However, there was thousands and thousands because he produced other, as you know, the Green Hornet, but quite a few other TV shows and movies, and everything that the guy did, Mr. Dozier did, everything he did, he wrote it down. He typed it up. He made notes, and it was amazing, his paperwork. So I think it was just over 700 pages that I had paid a student at the university to copy and send out to me.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a couple of weeks to get everything out, but I did. Paid for all this out of my pocket myself. Got the paperwork. Then I spent the next week or two going from top to bottom, reading left and right. And, of course, I'm not an attorney. However, it was pretty clear, in reading this, there's absolutely no way that at the time, and first of all, DC Comics wasn't DC Comics at the time. It was National Periodicals. And National Periodicals, as it turns out, was having a major financial problem in 65, 64. Comics weren't selling. Everything was terrible. So what they did is they found an open-end deal with Dozier. And when I say open-end deal, I saw the contract. It was open-end to the point he owned Batman. He owned everything about Batman. Anything that he added to Batman belonged to him. Not DC Comics, not National Periodicals, not Warner Brothers. It all belonged to him, William Dozier. He patented the costumes, each and every one, on the villains, the guest villains. Every costume that he had designed and made, he patented.
Really?
Yeah, I'm telling you, look it up. It's quite easy to do. Every costume, every weapon, whatever was used on the show, he patented. He turned around and then he copyrighted each and every episode. Not the show. See, most people they'll copyright the show, but not everyone does that. He copyrighted each and every episode by name. And I'm talking about the first part, the second part, each episode he copyrighted. I mean, he had it closed tight. Thing is, when all this DVD talk came up, well, of course he had passed, and
right.
The daughter had little or no interest in it whatsoever. She got very small residuals on the reruns from Warner. She was getting it from Warner because I guess it was ABC and Warner that had worked together on it, but I guess Warner was controlling it.
The way I've always understood it is that DC and Warner's own Batman.
Yeah, it was DC and Warner, yes.
Yeah, but Fox owned the show.
Well, that was before I came along. They had the rights to nothing. That's right, but that is true. That's what was said for years and years, and that's the reason why the holdup was there. Everybody thought, well, this one has that and this one has that. Truth of the matter is, the Batman that we see today, the Batman that we saw even back then, had absolutely nothing to do with William Dozier's Batman on TV. William Dozier's Batman on TV, he owned it, lock, stock, and barrel, every bit of it, from the costumes to the name Batman, the name Robin. He paid one of the artists, Carmen Infantino, great artist. I met him in New York City. Have you met him?
No, and he unfortunately recently passed away too.
Yeah. Well, I met him a couple times up in New York, and he's a super, super nice guy. He sued DC and Warner about the time we were digging up our information. And that also helped us, too, is because William Dozier had hired him, Infantino, to come up with a Batgirl. He wanted it drawn. He wanted an idea for a costume. In other words, because at the time, Carmen Infantino was doing Batman, but he was doing as a individual, not as an employee of DC. So William Dozier hired him as an employee for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was working directly with him, and he invented Batgirl. Well, DC took Batgirl just like they took Batman and everything on the show, like they thought it was theirs, and they said, it belongs to us now. Well, of course it didn't. So,
right.
Yeah. So he sued, and I think they settled with him for $7 or $8 million. I don't know. You'd have to look that up, but quite a bit. He got quite a bit, and they settled with him. And I was so glad to see that happen. And anyway, at the time, I was doing the research. Was when he was fighting. You can look these lawsuits up, by the way. So he filed suit, and that's when I started talking to Ms. Dozier Potter, William Dozier's daughter, and explaining to her, there's more to it than this. And so the minute, and what was really awesome, too, is the year, which was in 2009, I think it was. 2009 is when we were working with her. Well, William Dozier had filed for the patent, but I didn't know this, but patents actually run out over a 40, 50, 60-year period. The 2009, his patent would have ran out. On everything that he had, it would have ran out. She didn't know about it. She ran down there. I have letters from her saying, "Thank you so much. You don't know what you've done for us." We had our attorneys to go down and renew the patent, because all it had to be was renewed.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this is the honest to God's truth. I got it in writing. Had they not renewed it, then DC would have, and the honest to God's truth, what I'm thinking, DC knew about it the whole time. All they were doing was just sitting back and waiting. The minute that patent ran out, then they would own the TV series, and then we would have saw the DVDs. But what they were trying to do was get around paying everybody. I'm sorry to say that. And, honest to God, you come up with a better reason, I'll go with that. But
well, it's not outside the realm of possibility, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It would have ran out in 2009. That would have been the end of it. DC would have owned it lock, stock, and barrel. Dozier would have had nothing. So during this time, we got the confidence in Ms. Dozier that she could actually sell her portion of the DVDs. Contacted Wally Wingert, fantastic guy, knows everybody. He got in touch with the people over at Broadway Video, which is owned by the Saturday Night Live guy,
Lorne Michaels.
Lorne Michaels, right? He's a huge fan of the TV series, and they made an offer to the Doziers, and then suddenly, because in the meantime, the Dozier had filed suit, asking for the rights that her father had patented. So while they were filing suit, we were putting together a deal to put the DVDs out through Lorne Michaels' Broadway Video. Well, this is the mystery part. I can tell you what happened with me. Suddenly, the Doziers said to me, "We're going to go a different direction. We apologize. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We're satisfied." They never gave me one dime. I spent thousands of dollars having all this stuff printed and everything. Within 2010, we found out that the Doziers had turned around and sold everything to DC.
Ouch.
They re-upped the patent, they sold everything to DC, and then we saw the DVDs. And that's how it happened. Is because, but the problem was, not a problem, but I think it was an unethical thing is that Wally, myself especially, I put hours and hours and thousands of dollars into it to do this research, and our goal was to get the DVDs released. I mean, I wanted to see it before I died. I knew it had a right. I knew that Adam wanted it. Adam's family, his children. I talked to his children, and I wanted to see that happen, and that was our goal. But in the end, it was all about money. So the minute that Ms. Dozier Potter saw that she could do all this and get all this done, this is an assumption, but you'd have to read between the lines. It's pretty easy to see. It doesn't help that her husband's an attorney, too. Or maybe it does help. I guess it helped her. But the agent was working with them. Everything was looking smooth, and then suddenly they made a phone call and said, "We want nothing else to do with it." So it had to be DC stepped up and said, hold on, just stop. Let's stop this fighting, bickering back and forth. Here's the cash. Take it, walk away. And so they dissolved Dozier's production company completely, took it out of it. You'll never see, this is a Greenway presentation, you'll never see that again, ever.
Interesting.
Just the idea that was his idea, and he loved it so well, and this was his daughter. Even that in itself, I would have fought to keep. However, she didn't. And now everywhere you see that there was Greenway, now it says DC.
So no mention on the DVD package or anything else about Greenway at all?
Not at all. And it should be. They own the rights to that to that particular TV show. I don't care what the name of it is. Just so happens the name of it is Batman, okay? But to that particular TV show, the rights were William Dozier from beginning to the end. National Periodicals didn't have money to produce anything, much less a TV show at the time. I'm telling you, there were days from bankruptcy when they signed the deal with Dozier. And that's the truth, and that's easy to look up and find out, too.
Wow.
And, they signed it with him, and he took it, and he made the TV show. Then DC, and this whole time, and this is my personal opinion, but I've been so deep into this, I feel like that my opinion counts, is that this whole time, all this wish-wash where DC said, well, we want to distance ourselves from the TV show, and none of that was true. They're tying it together now as much as they can, the TV show to the movies and everything else. The whole time, the attorneys, everyone knew, stay clear of the TV show. We don't own it. We may think we own it, and it may look like we own it. We should own it, but we don't own it. So that was the distancing between TV Batman and the other comic Batman, and they worked really hard, especially through the 80s and the 90s, if you'll remember, trying to distance themselves from the TV show. But it was not the difference in the two. It was DC promoting it that way. DC never wanted it. You'll see a change from now, this day forward. You'll see that the DC will combine the two, and they'll push both. Of course, because now they're going to make money off of both. But it was a shame that they treated the show the way they did, and it was all about, it wasn't because it was a spoof or whatever. They didn't own it. It wasn't theirs. They weren't going to spend one red cent on promoting TV Batman. DC didn't want no part of it because they knew they'd never have it. It was DC that was doing the division of the fans. Honest to God, I believe that. They did it all along.
Interesting. But backing up just a little, the story I had always heard was that the release was complicated by the estates of the famous guest stars that were on the show. So how much did that really play into things?
I think it was maybe a half a step above zero. Yes, sir. The music, the actors, their families, it was a half a step above zero.
Wow.
Well, I'm here to tell you. Go to the DVD store today, and I want you to pick out how many DVDs of deceased actors and actresses there are, and there's millions, literally millions of them. They don't have a problem with that. Just to get signed off, the estate continues on and goes from one to the other. They send out a check, and it's done. Happens every day. DC had 20,000 excuses as to why. The real excuse was they didn't have the rights to release it. DC could have never had Ms. Dozier held her ground and said, I'm not going to do it, you're not releasing them, they would have never, ever been able to, ever, without her signing off. Never had she held it. But instead, the first chance she got, she sold it. And I kind of thought she would. But no, sir, I do not believe that. I believe it had nothing. I heard those stories, and of course I bought into them back then too. But after the research that I did, and remember, back in the day, Hawaii 5-0. I looked this up. It was part of what we were doing back in the day. It was a huge thing, and everybody wanted to be on Hawaii 5-0. Hawaii 5-0 had more big-name actors on it than Batman ever did. It's been on DVD for how many years?
That's true.
Unfortunately, fans like myself, I'm a fan, can be swayed in their thoughts, and that's what it was. DC never wanted the fans that they had, the fans that they owned, the fans that they profited from. They didn't want those fans to be associated with the TV fans because there was no way that DC was ever going to profit a nickel from them. And they didn't. They got a tiny, I forgot what their take was in the reruns of the TV show, but it wasn't nothing. It was nothing. They were getting nothing out of it. They killed it. They killed the 66 Batman until they owned it. With all the negative talk about DC, I did make a friend up in New York City, the number one attorney for them. I'm not going to mention his name. And he's pushed me really hard to get my kids licensed. He would like to see him. And I want to say that that's probably going to happen this year. It's not going to be done by me. I'm selling the rights to another company, and the other company is going to license the kits, but they're going to promote them. If you've seen the set, and I have not, Believe it or not, I have not seen the new DVD set. But if you've seen the set, at the end, I think it's on the last. Everyone's calling and telling me the last disc. You can see my kits. They're on a shelf. I think they're on not Wally's shelf, but
Ralph Garman.
Yeah, fantastic. Another fantastic guy. He got every kit that I did. He had them all. He sent me. In exchange, I got tons of Family Guy stuff, which I love, Family Guy. And they did an interview with Ralph Garman, and my friend John Patterson up in New Jersey was the one that called and told me. He said at the clip at the end of the disc, he said it's very clear. You can see the kits very well. The figures. I've got to look at it. I'm kind of perturbed somewhat and haven't went out and spent the money for the DVDs. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
you don't have a copy.
I would love to have them, but I refuse to pay. My wife said, and that's another thing too. My wife says to me, she says, "John, I'm going to buy you a set for Christmas." I said, "Marie, you better not. If you buy me a set for Christmas and spend our money, I won't watch it." I mean it. I'm so perturbed.
Wow.
It was really strange, and I'll be honest with you too. I even got to the point where I called Ms. Potter, Dozer, and said, could you at least reimburse me for the money I had spent to get the copies? I mean, like I said, it was thousands of dollars getting the copies made, shipped out to me, and I paid a student out there too. I forgot what I paid him, but it was a few $100s. This lady says to me that things are tight for her and her husband, and they really have no cash now.
What?
I swear to God, it was just.
Oh my God!
I said, okay, I understand, not a problem. I enjoyed what I did, and I really did. It wasn't. I never started it for the money. I love the series. I wanted to see the series on DVD. The series is on DVD. Adam is happy. Adam got a nice promotion fee out of it. Bert got a nice one. Then they got all the endorsements from the figures that were licensed. So, I mean, I'm glad that they are finally getting paid what they deserve. I mean, back in the day, Bert got $250 a week. That's what his salary was when he first started it. I think they bumped him up to $450 toward the end.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so it wasn't like he was really raking in the cash. Yeah, he's made 1,000 times as much endorsing these figures than modern day figures. And promotions from the DVDs, he's made thousands of times more than he ever did on the show.
Yeah, good for him. It's good for them, And I got to say, John, you're way more calm and collected about this whole situation than I would be.
But hey, here's the thing. The DVDs are out there.
Exactly.
That's what we all tried for, and that's what we got.
Amen.
It took a fat guy in Florida to get it done.
Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is a forgiving fellow. My thanks to John for being on the show and sharing his story with us. You'll be relieved to know that John is now the proud owner of a copy of the 1966 Batman TV series on DVD, courtesy of the BatPodcast, and I am the proud owner of a beautiful bust of Vincent Price as Egghead, painted and generously donated by John. It's really a stunning piece, and you can check out John's resin kits that we talked about on the show at johnnysresin.com. That's JOHNNYSRESIN.com. They're not for sale anymore, obviously, but they are some awesome pieces, and hopefully they will be officially licensed and available at some point because they are really, really cool. That's it for the show. Thanks again to John Stacks. I'm Pat the Batman Fan. You can follow me on Twitter at BatPodcast and on Facebook.com/BatPodcast. Stay tuned for more great guests right here on the BatPodcast, live from Gotham City.